What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech Peaches, back with another video. Today I'm going to share some tips, tricks, and techniques on how to improve your time management and your speed without sacrificing your quality. We are going to be focusing on a basic set today as our visual. And before we go ahead and get into it, you guys know, check the links in the description for discount codes as well as my Amazon storefront. I do have a Valentine's Day list on my storefront right now. Subscribe, turn your notifications on, and follow me on Instagram. So we're going to be using Nude Panther today. This is a double XL set, which means basically I double tipped in some sort of way. If you want to see exactly how I double tip to achieve double XL plus, I do have videos on my channel. That's not what we're focusing on today, okay? My liquid is Young Nails and my brush size is a size 20. So the reason why I want to talk with you guys about why it is important to increase your speed and better your time management is because I see a lot of things on Instagram that directly correlate taking your time in slower times with automatic quality, which just isn't true. I hear stories in real life all the time about how, there are people that are taking 4 hours on, medium length sets and they're still popping off. Now, I do want to make this clear. There's nothing wrong with taking your time. And if you are a slower nail tech, there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, we all should strive to want to get better, and time management is one of those things. I personally used to take 3 hours for everything. That it doesn't matter the design, the length, was it a basic set? I just was so trying to make sure everything was perfect that I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to risk it. I'm just going to take 3 hours. But what I found was, not only do I not want to sit there for 3 hours, but other people don't necessarily want to sit for 3 hours either, if possible. Like, obviously, most clients are going to say, well, if that's the time it takes and I like her work, then I'm going to sit there. But in all reality, people do have other things to do, and us as techs have other things to do as well. So what I personally started doing was every time I did somebody's nails, I would keep track of, honestly, how long does it take me to consistently do this? And the better I got at application and shaping, and the better those things got, the less time it took. And so I found myself saying, you know what? I'm going to shave off 30 minutes and I'm going to challenge myself to finish this type of set with 30 minutes less time. And so that is like the number one main tip I have for those of you who want to increase in your time. Because if you keep your sets and keep your appointments at, like, obviously the time you're taking, like, let's say for French tips, you take 3.5 hours for a medium set, right? Personally, for me, I can do a French tip set in 2.5 hours. Now, that 2.5 hours includes from the time that person comes into my room to the time they pay and I'm cleaning up. You see what I'm saying? So, let's just say you take 3.5 hours for a medium French, right? The next time you do French, challenge yourself to finish in a quicker time than that. Now, the things that you can shave off time of your in your appointment and not sacrifice quality are things such as not letting your clients take so long with color selection. So for me personally, from the time they come in, I'm like, hey babe, what's going on? What type of set do you want? Blah, blah, blah. As they're telling me, I am making sure I'm doing my setup. I'm getting out my implements, my files, everything. I don't stop moving. You see what I'm saying? So as I am preparing for the set, that time is used to discuss the set. It's used to talk about what they want, but I am not stop moving. I'm not just sitting there looking at them talking. I'm putting my gloves on. I'm starting prep. Now, for me personally, prep is probably like a 20-minute process because I consider prep is everything before you lay the acrylic. Okay, that's what I take it as, and not just like, putting tips on or whatever. That time, that's an additional 20 minutes for them to be going ahead and choosing what they want. So realistically, the first 30 minutes of the appointment, you're greeting them, you're setting up all your supplies, and then you are prepping them for the actual set. And by the time I pour my liquid, okay, they should have already looked at colors and done all of that. That is the number one thing that can help reduce times in your appointment for those who want to start cutting down appointment times but are not at the level of where you feel like you can work faster and still keep your quality. Okay, now for those of you who maybe you've already taken that step, right? You've already like, okay, I'm already got that down. Prep, yep, colors are chosen and all the necessary things are done before we start. For those of you who already are at that level, and your main thing is maybe your hands physically don't move fast enough. The thing that helped me the most, right, is adjusting the size beads that I use. I see a lot of people that they do use size 10 and 12 brushes. This is a size 20. You can see what type of beads I'm using to cover way more surface area. Now, even if you're not ready to move up to the next size brush, I highly advise you to play around with the size beads that you are using, because realistically, if you're doing a set this long, and I've seen it on YouTube, and like I said, there's no shame in nothing. I've already talked about my own self, how long I used to take. You're gonna have to play around with how much liquid can your brush take to give you those type of beads you need to cover more surface area. And that is going to be the second main biggest tip I can give you for moving quicker in your appointment times and like at work. Because what I really want people to understand is that I'm not telling you to rush yourself or anything like that, but I am telling you at the end of the day, there is ways that you can improve your appointment times, which then can allow, other times for breaks, or even to go home early, or even to fit in an extra appointment if you're looking to also increase your revenue every month or every week or what have you. So once you're at that point where you're like, okay, my bead size is a little bit bigger, I'm taking more time to make sure that everything is nice and consistent. The next step is to make sure, is my application, like, am I doing my job when it comes to application? So you can see like how focused I am in making sure everything sticks to the nail, right? If your application still needs work and you've been doing it for, we'll say like a year plus, because honestly that first year you should be focusing on nothing but application for the most part. And honestly, for most people, they're not gonna get too much improvement in that first year. Like, yes, you will improve, but like a year or 2 years in is that's where you're gonna see like a super major difference. You're gonna have to pay closer attention to, is my application going well, and how long is my application taking, right? So the longer that you do nails, the more you realize, like, you know what, there's no reason why I have to focus this hard, because it becomes second nature. So once you kind of let your brain be free and just let your, like, tune into your hands working, I mean, that might just be me personally, but once you take so many clients and you're doing it all day in and out, I don't know everyone's work schedule, but for me, multiple years, I was working 7 days a week, nonstop. So it really became second nature. You know what I'm saying? So tune into the fact that, like I always say, my brush, that's my homegirl. Like, she gets the job done. You have to have like a symbiotic relationship. The brush respects you, you respect the brush. Okay. Everything will treat you right if you treat your stuff right. You see what I'm saying? So once you get your application right, you've got a little bit bigger beads. Now we're focused on application. Once you understand how to work your beads, and you can see in this video, I'm not really swiping unless I'm getting rid of excess product. So right there, you see in the apex, I let it sit for a second and I'm swiping down the excess because I don't want it to be there. Most of the time when you actually see me doing is I am patting or pulling the product down. So let's take a second to look, right? I'm getting my bead and you can see, right? This is the thumb is like a little bit bigger, so usually sometimes I'll take two, combine two to one. I'm letting gravity do some work for me, but I kind of don't let it do all the work for me. It's just in the sense of like, look at the texture of my bead. But you can see I'm just guiding the acrylic. So focus more on guiding the acrylic and just keeping everything together. When you get bigger beads, they will form like one solid mass, so everything can get brought down evenly. Instead of when you're using smaller beads, that's a lot more things you have to focus on. Because now you're focused on, is my last bead overlapping correctly? Is there any lines of demarcation, etc., etc.? When you're tuned into the way that you work, don't tune into how other people work, right? Because this method might not even work for you. This is just what works for me and the best way I can explain to others. But when you start tuning into how do I like to work and what do I like to do, right? Take the tips you learn from other people and apply that to what you already do and see what is the missing piece, right? That's going to help you move 1,000 times faster, like literally. And honestly, I hope y'all know this video is sped up. Just I should have said that earlier. I don't move this fast. Like, come on. But yes. So once we figured out what we need to do in application, right? That's gonna help us get the best look. We're gonna go on to shaping. Now with shaping, the only thing that's gonna increase your shaping time is the fact that your application is now, you know, a 10 out of 10. And so that's just going to be you really getting your application together, and that's the best thing that I can say as far as that, right? Now let's focus on some things that are highly talked about, that are things that won't necessarily increase your speed or decrease your appointment times. So I see a lot of talk about silent appointments and how you know, there are clients that like, oh, I like silent appointments because, you know, maybe I'm shy, or nail tech saying, oh, I like to focus. I want y'all to know that you do not have to be silent in order to focus on what you're doing. Okay. Conversation with clients is something that clients actually really, really like. They like to get to know their tech. They like to get to understand what's going on, personality. They want to feel comfortable, just like you want to know your clients, right? You know, you key and all those things at the appointment, blah, blah, blah. Now, being completely quiet and focused, if that's your style and that's the type of tech you are, that's perfectly fine. But I do want y'all to know that you can still have a good time, and as long as you keep your hands moving, then there's not an issue. Keeping your hands moving is going to be a make or break, okay? Because the thing about it is, let's say all those other things you're still working on, all the other tips and tricks you're still working on. If in the downtime, right, and you guys are having conversations, you continue to stop a lot, then it's going to drag your appointment times on and on and on. There are a lot of different times to where, even if you're maybe not actively doing nails, you're looking at stuff or whatever, we want to multitask and keep things going. Okay, so if you're somebody who does like to talk a lot, do not let other people say that talking during appointment keeps appointment times up, because that's not true. It's only true if you stop moving your hands, right? But as you can see, yes, I did stop a few times, but the thing about it is, if I already know that application time and shaping time takes me pretty quickly, I have some time to spare. And you'll find that in the times, what your normal times are, right? You'll learn that with some of these tips, right, in these tricks, you will start to realize, hey, I've got 5 minutes extra time in my appointments. I've got 10 minutes extra time in my appointments. And that's how you will slowly reduce your time. Once you find that it takes you a little bit less time than normal, then you will really get the motivation to like, I wonder how much can I reduce my appointment times? You see what I'm saying? And so that's the best advice that I have for those of you who want to improve your time but not necessarily decrease your quality. It's all about practice. Don't stop practicing. Now, who's going to call me without a caller ID? That don't even make no sense. So it's all about practice and all about keeping things in mind. Watch the clock. Do not just assume that, hey, I work for myself and I can do whatever I want. You know, that's not always the right way. And it might be your way, and that might be what works for you. But over time, we got to keep improving on different things. And this is just an aspect that I realize most people don't care to improve on, or it's one of those things that a lot of people say you don't need to improve on, which me personally, I feel like that's not true. You know, we all have things to improve on constantly. And yeah, I just wanted to provide some tips, some encouraging words for those of you who are in this stage of where, hey, application's cool, this is getting better, but now it's time to improve on time. So hopefully this video helped you guys. I appreciate you guys as always, and I will see you in the next one.